13 days. 13 days until the greatest film in the history of cinema releases The Batman. It will be a triumph when the next Go movie is out. And I can't even fathom that in 13 days I will be sitting in a theater watching this film. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. And I can't fathom. But that's it. It's gonna happen in 13 days. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. The show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of movies of the past week, something or the other. Yeah, we got some cool, interesting news stories to talk about. So let's just jump right into our first segment. And that is the... Oh, Jesus, I didn't even position my camera. Wow, I'm an idiot. There we go. No, there it is. Look at that. Kind of. Yeah, no, it could be a little bit more. Hold on. It's okay. This ain't no professional operation here. Yeah, that's probably fine. I'll just move myself instead of the camera. Okay, yeah. So there was a Doctor Strange 2 trailer that premiered literally like a couple hours after I finished the show last week. I completely forgot that I recorded the show last week on the day of the Super Bowl. Straight up, just totally forgot about that. And so I should have delayed the show so that I could talk about these trailers last week, because they're not irrelevant now, but it's not hot, fresh, piping hot news. But I really love these trailers. I will say. I love this trailer. It just looks like a really great movie. It's obviously being directed by Sam Raimi, and you can really feel that in the trailer. You can feel his touch. It looks creepy. It looks. Sorry, I just did a little burp there, but it looks. It was a completely serious trailer, which is a very interesting thing for Marvel, because even in like the Eternals trailer, where it's kind of like, look at this grand sweeping time spanning film, look at the Chloe Zhao's directing it, but even that movie had like, oh well, I mean, at the end we gotta throw in the joke of what's his face, the handsome Superman guy. He was like, well, I can lead the Avengers, and then everybody's like, oh, you idiot, you moron. And so even those trailers had to throw in a little joke, little humor. Even the Moon Knight trailer, which looks, incredibly, creepy and serious, looks like a psychological thriller. Even that one had to throw in some jokes, with like the museum lady being like, Mark, you idiot, you're a moron, you're useless. And then the thing with like the old lady where he was like, I'm looking for my contact lens, and she's like, I hope you find it. Like even that trailer had some jokes in it. There weren't any jokes in this, and I just think that's a really interesting thing, because that's just not a thing that Marvel does. Marvel always has to put in a little joke in there, so that that, hey, this is still a Marvel movie, so you can still bring your kids. They didn't do that here, which was very interesting. So. But yeah, overall, I think it looks really good. It looks compelling. It looks like there's going to be a compelling story with Doctor Strange having to face consequences for his actions, and, potentially seeing, especially like Scarlet Witch, which is obviously the little image here of, like, it looks like she's going to go bad in this movie. At the very least, there is going to be conflict with her and Doctor Strange, and that's compelling. And that's one of the things that I was worried about this movie, was that it was just going to be a mess of cameos for 2.5 hours, and it still could be that potentially, but there's at least the promise of a compelling story here. But speaking of fan service cameos, we should probably talk about this. A little tease here. That it's Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Like, obviously they didn't show his face. We only heard his voice. We haven't heard any confirmation from Marvel or anybody, but it is Patrick Stewart, and he is playing Professor X in this. Now, in the trailer, this is the bit where Doctor Strange gets like he gets arrested. And when I saw that initially in the trailer, I kind of was like, oh, is this the TVA from Loki? By the way, I did a trailer reaction, and I'm such an idiot. I didn't recognize Patrick Stewart. I am so stupid. I just didn't even recognize that it was him. And I was like, oh, it's the TVA from Loki. But apparently everybody's saying that it's not the TVA, that this is actually the Illuminati, which honestly just confuses me, because I don't know how like the TVA, everything that was going on in What If with like the Watcher and whatever, and then now this Illuminati, I don't know how that all works together. Like, is the TVA above the Illuminati in terms of how much power they have? What is the deal with all of this, right? It's all very confusing. I don't know if they're gonna explain it and tie it all together somehow, but yeah, everybody's saying this is the TVA, and basically what the TVA is, again, I haven't read the comics, this is just what I've heard from people, is that in the comics at least, they're a group of like the smartest people in the Marvel universe, like, you know, Tony Stark, Professor X, Reed Richards. It's just this group that they get together and they kind of make decisions about the world, and they kind of try to control it, right, from a secretively. And people are saying that this could be a multiversal Illuminati, where, you know, the smartest people from across the multiverse could have this this group that sort of controls the multiverse, which is an interesting concept. And yeah, like, it would make sense that Professor X from another multiverse where the X-Men exist could be there. You know, we're probably going to get a variant of Tony Stark, because we saw like those Ultron bots there. Maybe that's a variant from a universe where the suit of armor around the world was successful, maybe, and that Tony Stark eventually, you know, then that Tony Stark is in this. I know a lot of people think that Tom Cruise is going to play Tony Stark. There's no real indication that that's going to be the case. Just people have been assuming that because of, like, there might have been some rumors, but I know people just want to see that because Tom Cruise was actually in talks to play Tony Stark before they settled on Robert Downey Jr., but there's really no indication that that's going to be the case. But yeah, and then as far as other people, who knows? I mean, it could be, people want to see Reed Richards, obviously. They want John Krasinski to be there, but I feel like at this point, if you're Marvel, I don't know that you put Reed Richards in. I don't think you have John Krasinski be Reed Richards in a movie, unless he's going to be your main Reed Richards in just moving forward. Like, that's not something that you tease. I think that's such a fan requested thing that you don't just tease John Krasinski as Reed Richards at this point. But I mean, they totally could. But yeah, honestly, like, who knows who could be in it? Like, you know, you can't just say the people from the comic books, because the Marvel changes the comics all the time. But yeah, so that should be interesting. And yeah, I mean, with Professor X being there, this could be where we start seeing how the X-Men are going to be introduced into the MCU. There's a really interesting theory about how that could happen, and basically, I did not come up with this theory. This is just something that I heard. So, you know, if there are holes in this, I apologize, but I haven't thought too much about it. But basically, there's a theory that maybe in the MCU, Wanda, because in the comic books, at some point, she says, like, no more mutants, and she basically erases all mutants from existence. What if this is in the MCU, Wanda already did that? And that's why we haven't seen, like, mutants or X-Men in the MCU, because Wanda already did that. And this Professor X that's in the Illuminati was like able to escape from that and kind of like survive in this thing out of time, out of the multiverse, in the Illuminati. And then somehow in this movie, we managed to bring the X-Men back into the MCU somehow, like post hoc. That could be interesting because one of the big problems with the MCU is just how exactly do you bring X-Men in? Because it's like, you can't necessarily just bring them in because then because it's like, well, if you just bring them in somehow, like if you just kind of bring the mutant X gene in and create new mutants, then, well, the X-Men characters are not going to have the rich history that they had in the comics, and that's a part of the X-Men. But then if you just have it be that the X-Men have always been here, then where were they, and blah blah blah. Now, I've personally always been of the opinion that you can just make it that the X-Men have been here all along and that we just haven't seen them. Like, you could do that, and I've seen people say that, no, that's not going to make any sense. But, like, they just did that with the Eternals. Like, and it's like, well, why didn't the Eternals fight Thanos? And they were just like, because Arsham, the judge, told us not to. It's like, that's stupid. But nobody cared. Everybody was like, oh, okay, fine, I guess. Like, you could just be like, why didn't the X-Men help fight Thanos? And you'd be like, well, they wanted to stay in hiding because Professor Xavier wanted, just his main thing is wanting to protect his kids. And it's like, well, that's stupid. But I honestly don't think anybody would care. But if Marvel in their heads are like having this conundrum, yeah, that like having it be that Professor Scarlet Witch in this retcon, Scarlet Witch undoes what she did and just brings back the mutants that way. That could be interesting. I don't know. That's just a theory that people have, but yeah, we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, either way, I am definitely excited for this film. Okay, so there's the trailer. Now, this is the poster, and there are some things to talk about here when it comes to the poster. Okay. This right here. Sorry, I had to text somebody. That is Captain Carter's shield. Now, there are a lot of times when, a poster will come out and, like the fans will be like, zoom in, enhance the image. Oh my gosh, it's Batman's cowl. Batman is going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, that's definitely a thing. Fans get overzealous sometimes, but that's Captain Carter's shield. Like, it just is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's exciting to me. I didn't love What If. I'll be honest, I didn't really like it. I didn't hate it, but my main problem with What If was that the plots that they introduced and the scenarios that they introduced, they just telling those stories in, 20, 30 minutes or however long those episodes were, it just wasn't enough time, and they just ended up feeling really rushed. So like the Captain Carter episode just took the plot of Captain America, the First Avenger, and shrunk it down, and so it felt rushed, and it was just wasn't very good. That being said, I love Haley Atwell, and I love the idea of Captain Carter, so I'm totally down to see her in live action as this character. Where exactly a character like that falls into the Doctor Strange 2, I mean, I don't know. Like, could we see that multiversal Avengers team in this movie with the Captain Carter, and I think there was a Black Widow on that team. I think was there a Thor on that team? I think there was. I'm trying to remember. I know there was the Star-Lord, T'Challa. Probably not going to see him, obviously, because unfortunately Chadwick Boseman passed away. But yeah, who knows how that goes. But for sure, I mean, I guess we don't know for sure that Captain Carter is going to be in it. But I mean, her shield is in the poster. She's going to be in it. yeah, I'm definitely excited to see her. Now, that is a very obvious uh, tease there by the marketing team. Um, Let us get into something that is a little less obvious. This shard of glass. Do you see anything in there? Do you? Well, if you kind of look at it the right way, it kind of looks like Deadpool. um, I mean, honestly, I do see it. Like, I do see Deadpool in there. That being said, this honestly very well could be a coincidence. Like, I am not like I'm definitely what am I doing here? Okay. Like, I'm definitely not like super like that's definitely Deadpool, because it very well could be a coincidence, but it is there. And I will say there was an like Ryan Reynolds did do like not an interview, but he was like kind of getting like I don't know exactly where he was, but like a reporter was like, "Are you in Deadpool 2?" And Ryan Reynolds, he looked very nervous and he did not give a convincing answer that he wasn't in it. Like he sounded like he was lying. Um so I don't know. Again, Deadpool is just another one of those characters where it's like I don't know how he fits into this. Like this looks like a much more serious, dramatic film. Do you want Deadpool in that? But then again, I mean, Professor X is in there, so clearly they're bringing in some elements of the X-Men. Why not Deadpool? So I'm leaning on. I don't think he will be in it. Um, and even if he is, that thing on the poster is not an indication that he is. But oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to bring up was this Rob Liefeld tweet where he was like, "Ooh, who knows? Ooh, maybe." So, that being said, Rob Liefeld, he's like, I feel like he kind of says a lot of stuff, like teasing stuff, but I don't know that I necessarily take his word as gospel. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about the guy because it's like whatever. Like he hasn't like done anything bad, I don't think, but like I feel like he teases a lot of stuff that don't necessarily come to fruition. And I'll be completely honest, I do not remember what those things are. This is just kind of like vague memories that I have. So obviously take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm not saying at all that he's lying or that he's untrustworthy. I'm just saying I have vague memories of him kind of like teasing stuff that didn't come into fruition. So whatever. Honestly, now that I think about it, that wasn't even a point worth bringing up. But whatever. But yeah, what do you think about all of the Doctor Strange things that I just talked about? Did you like the trailer? Are you looking forward to the movie? Do you think Deadpool is going to be in it? Do you think Captain Carter is going to be in it? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, next trailer. Moon Knight. It got like a TV spot at the Super Bowl. Doctor Strange, they released a TV spot and they released like a full 2-minute trailer, but Moon Knight only got a new TV spot, and I continue to remain incredibly excited for the show. This is actually my most anticipated Marvel project at the moment, like even more so than Doctor Strange 2, if I'm being honest. It just looks incredibly compelling. I think Oscar Isaacs looks great in this. I think he's going to give a hell of a performance. I think Ethan Hawke looks awesome and scary. Moon Knight, I mean, come on. This costume just looks amazing. Like, come on. It looks so cool. Like I've always thought that Moon Knight's costume looks awesome. And in live action, it just works, man. And so we didn't get new story stuff out of this trailer. We saw a little bit of like more interaction between Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaacs, but the main shots of this TV spot is Moon Knight. There was a shot where he unfurled his cape in the shape of a moon, and he was jumping to fight a bunch of thugs. And then there was a bit where he like catches he has these like moon knives or something. And it just looks awesome, and the show looks awesome, and I cannot wait for it. I think it comes out on March 30th. So, after we watch the greatest film in the history of cinema, which is going to be The Batman, we are going to be able to watch Moon Knight on March 30th. So let us get excited for that. Okay. Next up, we have The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power teaser trailer. Uh, I thought this looked fine, honestly. I know there's a lot of discourse surrounding this. I may have gotten involved into it a bit myself, on Twitter mostly. um, but yeah, I honestly, like, politics aside, whatever. I think it looks fine. Like, I as a non Lord of the Rings fan, I don't understand what the story is. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it is just a teaser trailer, and I do think that it looks good visually. I think clearly there's production value here. It's one of those things where, like, I wonder if people mostly that think it looks bad. I wonder if it's one of those things where, like, when you hear that this Lord of the Rings show is going to be the most expensive show of all time, I feel like it's almost impossible to live up to the expectations that sets. But I do think that it looks good. Me personally, like, I think when I first saw it in my, like, trailer reaction, I was like, I don't know. I kind of dealt with that quandary that I just spoke about. But I think the more I watch it, I'm like, no. This looks good. Like, this obviously looks good. It definitely looks good for TV for sure. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in this. I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. I've never watched the movies nor have I read the books. And yeah, as far as, like, there being black elves and a black dwarf and a dwarf without a beard, I don't care. Like, I don't think, like, it's an adaptation. It doesn't have to be exactly like the source material, as long as it captures the essence of the source material and is first and foremost a good show. Then who cares? Like, that's fine. But I don't want to get too deep into that. Okay, now let's move on to our first story of the day. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, we have a release date for the Lord of the Rings anime movie that is being made by Warner Brothers, not Amazon. This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. The Lord of the Rings franchise has a date to return to theaters. Warner Brothers Animation and New Line's anime standalone The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim will arrive in theaters on April 12th, 2024. So it's a ways away. I know they announced this, like, I think, like, a few months ago. This could be cool. Like, it's not often that we get, like, big animated, like, 2D animated movies anymore, and I'm definitely down for more of that. And when we see stuff like Into the Spider-Verse and just seeing just the way animation has been kind of, like, pushing forward, I think to see what they can do with Lord of the Rings, I think could be really cool. So yeah, I don't know anything about the story. I don't know anything about the War of Rohirrim, but yeah, hopefully by the time this comes out, I'm gonna be super into Lord of the Rings. Amazon is gonna convert me, and I'm gonna be excited for this movie. Hopefully. Okay, next up, the Wonder Twins are getting an HBO Max movie. That's a group of words that I never thought I would say in my life. This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. The Burbank-based studio has hired Adam Sistagiel, who worked on the upcoming Black Adam. I believe he wrote Black Adam, to write and direct an original live-action feature for HBO Max based on the DC characters. The Wonder Twins are a pair of alien siblings named Zan and Jaina. That's an unfortunate pair of words. The twins were known for their catchphrase, "Wonder Twin, power activate," said before Jaina... I'm sorry. Transformed into any animal, while Zan turned into the many shapes of water. So, I guess the girl turns into animals and the guy turns into water. Really weird. It's one of those things where it's like, why are they making this? But there has to be a twist on this. Like, this is most likely going to be a comedy. It's most likely going to be comedic. I mean, there's a potential that they saw what James Gunn, did with the Suicide Squad movie and has been doing with Peacemaker, and showing that they're like, you can take these bizarre comic book properties and make sort of comedic, surreal, but still, taking it seriously, content. And I think that like they're Peacemaker proves that you really can take any of these properties and do something interesting with it. Now, is it kind of dangerous when if you do that without like the vision of James Gunn and potentially you come off as trying to do James Gunn, but you ain't James Gunn? Absolutely, there's a chance of that happening, but I'm not gonna assume that to be the case. So yeah, I will say this also does speak well for Black Adam, because for Warner Brothers to just take this guy's idea and be like, sure, we'll take a look at this. We'll take a look at this Wonder Twins movie. That probably means that Black Adam must be pretty damn good for them to even consider making something like this. Because when you look at like Peacemaker, obviously the only reason that show was made was because James Gunn wanted to make it. Like, no, DC was not making a Peacemaker. DC was not making a Suicide Squad movie with Peacemaker in it, you know? So yeah, just kind of, that's also another interesting thing to look at there. Okay, next up. Netflix is making a BioShock movie that I did not put an image for. Did I put the article? I did. Cool. We can at least read the article. Would you kindly watch Netflix's BioShock movie? The streamer is teaming up with 2K and Take-Two Interactive to adapt the popular video game series as a film, details of which were announced Tuesday. Vertigo Entertainment and Take-Two will produce the movie, which does not have a director or talent attached as of yet. Okay. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about this. I guess I am sure. It's that I'm sure that I'm not sure. Like, Netflix does not have a great track record with their movies, and I mean, I think the main reason why is because a lot of times, I mean, Netflix just makes and buys a lot of content, obviously, you know, and I think the main reason why is because a lot of times, like, Netflix will take movies that studios pass on. Like, if you look at that Cloverfield movie that was exclusively on Netflix, they put that on there because studios thought it was bad and they didn't want it, and Netflix was like, well, we'll take it, I guess, I don't know. But then at the same time, Netflix can be like an incredible breeding ground for like really passionate artists, for, you know, when their ideas aren't accepted in the studio system. Well, there are platforms like Netflix that can be a haven ground for them. Like, if you take Martin Scorsese and The Irishman, where studios didn't want to fund The Irishman because they would have lost a lot of money on The Irishman. But so Netflix was like, "Oh, Martin, yeah, we'll take you. We'll give you $100 million to make your gangster movie." And so that's the thing. Like, it's not necessarily fair to be like, "Oh, Netflix is making a movie, it's definitely going to be bad," because it really depends on the circumstances. And clearly, this is something that like Take-Two is making themselves, and they're teaming up with does it say here? Oh, and Vertigo Entertainment. Okay. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, like, I'm not entirely sure what their track record is, or even if they have a track record with great movies. So it's hard to say as of yet. Honestly, at this point, I want to wait to see who they get as a director, because if they get somebody great like a Guillermo del Toro, I mean, that's like my dream. That's my dream director for a BioShock movie. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know what BioShock is, or if you've never heard of it, it's a video game. It's honestly kind of hard to explain, but it's kind of creepy. It's a horror survival deal, but it also does have a great story, and that is really the thing about BioShock that should excite you, is that it is one of the great video game stories of all time. Now, a big part of the storytelling is, you know, you being in the world and you interacting with it and you kind of like discovering the story for yourself. So it'll be interesting to see how that's adapted into a movie, but there is a strong foundation here for a good movie, especially visually, because BioShock looks incredible. So yeah, I have to wait to hear more about this project to see if I'm really going to get behind it. But As of right now, it's happening. Okay, next story. Dune 2 is filming later this year. It's come from Variety. Villeneuve confirmed that that's the director, that Dune Part 2 is supposed to shoot by the end of the summer, adding, I will say it is mostly designed. The thing that helps us right now is that it's the first time I've revisited a universe. So I'm working with the same crew. Everybody knows what to do. We know what it will look like. The movie will be more challenging, but we know where we are stepping and the screenplay is written. So I feel confident. Frankly, the only big unknown for me right now is the pandemic. So, yeah, they're planning on shooting next year. Not surprising. I mean, the movie was greenlit pretty soon after it came out, or I think might have been greenlit before it came out. It's one of those things where it probably would have been nice for them to have shot them like back to back, so that we could have had Dune in 2021, Dune Part 1, and then Dune Part 2 in 2022. But, Warner Brothers and, what is it? Was it Lionsgate? That I think they worked with Lionsgate on this. They were hedging their bets, which I can understand, because Dune is a property where it's like, we don't really know how this is going to work out. Is this going to make any money? Like, yeah, I get it. But it would have been nice for them to have filmed it back to back. But it's really not that big of a deal. They're going to start filming later this year. It's going to be fine. All right. Next up, where we're going to get into a lot of Paramount stuff. Paramount had this like Paramount Plus Investor Day thing, kind of like what Disney does. I had no idea this was happening. Like I straight up didn't know. And granted, I think this is one of those things that is mostly for the investors. I don't think it was really a thing for public consumption where there was a big like stream where you could watch, because there weren't any like trailers that came from this or anything, but we do have some news. So first of all, we're getting a Knuckles Paramount Plus TV show. So this is coming from Variety. The announcement was made as part of the Viacom CBS, now Paramount, Investor Day presentation. Idris Elba, who will voice Knuckles in the upcoming second Sonic film, will voice the character again in the series. Like the films, the series will be live action. It will be produced by Sega and Paramount and will launch in 2023. And also, by the way, they did announce at this thing that they're also Sonic 3 has already been greenlit before the release of Sonic 2. So there are those two things. I still haven't seen the first Sonic, so I honestly don't really know how I feel about this film franchise. I'm already not even a huge fan of Sonic to begin with. Like, if I'm being honest, I've never played a good Sonic game. I've begrudgingly played through Sonic games as a kid, where I'm like, well, this is the only game I have, so I'll play this. But I've never loved Sonic, and so I didn't have much interest in the movie, but I probably will check it out at some point, probably in preparation for the second one. And so, yeah, I really don't know what to say about this, because I don't have much to say. So if you're excited for this, then congratulations. All right, next up. A Quiet Place 3 got a release date. It's coming from Deadline. John Krasinski announced during the Viacom CBS Investor Day that there's a third, brand new Quiet Place debuting in 2025. The pick is currently in development. This is separate from the next installment of A Quiet Place, which Pig filmmaker Michael Sarnowski is writing and directing and said to be in the same universe, a spin-off. That pick hits theaters on September 23rd, 2023, and is based on an original idea of Krasinski's, though details are being kept secret. Okay. Honestly, a little weird to announce it so far in advance. A little weird that it's gonna take that long to make. But I am a fan of the A Quiet Place franchise. I really like the first two movies, so I'm down for more. Like, until they make a movie that's bad, I'm gonna be down for more. I mean, I will say, I guess I do wish that they try and do something different with the spinoff. I don't even know exactly what that would be. I don't know if they can maybe explore like the aliens a bit more. Like, why are the aliens here? Like, clearly they came in like a ship of some kind, But are they mindless creatures? Are they here for some kind of purpose? It'll be very interesting to see where they go with this, and how this spin-off differentiates itself from the rest, from the core franchise. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah. Next story. What WB is getting sued. This is coming from Collider. The longtime financier of tentpole movies sued the studio in Los Angeles Superior Court today. By the way, this is a Village Roadshow that is suing them. Alleging breach of contract. The 50-page complaint does not mince words, blasting the deliberate and consistent coordinated efforts of WB to eviscerate the significant value of Village Roadshow's intellectual property. In a statement, Warner Brothers responded, "This is a frivolous attempt by Village Roadshow to avoid their contractual commitment to participate in the arbitration that we commenced against them last week. We have no doubt that this case will be resolved in our favor." Okay, so basically, the reason why this is happening is because in 2021, Warner Brothers made that big announcement that all of their movies are coming to theaters and HBO Max on the same day. And they did that without telling their financial partners, which honestly, I'm surprised that more of them did not that more people did not sue them. I mean, they must have paid people off behind the scenes, and it looks like Village Roadshow are like the one guys that are like, no, you majorly screwed us over, especially considering that Matrix did not do well at the box office. Like, it really does not surprise me at all that they're going like, absolutely not, your asses are getting sued. And yeah, now Warner Brothers, they're kind of saying that like, oh, in our contract, we said that we would do things in arbitration. And I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand, like arbitration basically means like you're resolving things behind closed doors with like a private judge of some kind. And Village Roadshow is saying like, nah, bitch, we're doing this in public. And yeah, I mean, maybe if in their contract it says that if problems were to arise, they would do it in arbitration, and I don't know if that's going to give Warner Brothers any argumental power. But as far as who's in the right here, it is Village Roadshow. Like, what Warner Brothers did was incredibly scummy. Instead of, before making that decision, going to their financial partners and making deals with them, they basically threw the rock and then apologized afterwards. So I mean, yeah, again, much like the Scarlett Johansson situation where she was very clearly in the right, Warner Brothers, they broke their contractual obligations with them, and I imagine that they're not going to come out of this cleanly. Like, they're probably going to have to pay a larger sum of money to Village Roadshow. Okay, next story. Star Trek 4. It's coming from Collider. It's happening with the original crew, not the original crew, the newer crew. It's coming from Collider. After several creative shifts, Paramount has officially announced that they are forging ahead with Star Trek 4. Matt Shakman was set as the director last year, and the studio and franchise director J.J. Abrams confirmed his involvement today at the Viacom CBS Investor Day presentation. Paramount also confirmed that they have begun discussions with Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, and Zoe Saldana, among other cast members, to reprise their respective roles, with production set to begin later this year. The studio is also pursuing Carl Urban, John Cho, and Simon Pegg to reprise their roles as Dr. Bones, Sulu, and Scotty, respectively. I'm a little surprised by this, just because, this iteration of Star Trek never really hit it off, I don't think, either financially or, critically. And one of the main reasons why Star Trek 4 hasn't gotten off the road is because Paramount wanted to lower the budget and lower the salary of the cast, and a lot of the cast were like, no, we're not taking a lower pay cut. And which, I mean, is honestly fair enough on both ends. Like, I don't think anybody was in the wrong there, but that is one of the reasons why we didn't get a Star Trek 4 with this core crew. But it looks like they're going to try again. Like, I don't know if they're going to try again to get the cast to take a lower paycheck, or if they're going to just cough up the money to get them in. I don't know. Part of me kind of feels like at this point, it wouldn't be that crazy to just start fresh with Star Trek on film. Like, now that you have a Star Trek sort of universe going on TV, it wouldn't be a crazy thing to now also start fresh on film. So I don't know. Then again, I don't like, again, much like Lord of the Rings, Star Trek isn't really my thing. I've really only ever watched the reboot series of films, which I did enjoy. Like, I liked Star Trek 2009 and I liked Star Trek Beyond. Or no, I like the second Star Trek movie. I have not seen Star Trek Beyond. But yeah, honestly, I don't have many thoughts on this. If you're happy or you're angry about this news, good for you. I'm not going to argue with you. Okay. They also announced that there's going to be a new Transformers trilogy. This is coming from Collider. The sixth movie in the flagship film series and seventh overall was slated for a June 9th, 2023 release. And don't worry, that still goes. But there is more to come. In its official Twitter account, Paramount Plus revealed that Transformers Rise of the Beasts is debuting in theaters as the first of 3 new installments. Again, these are franchises that I'm not too super keen on. Like, I never really cared that much about Transformers, and the movies have not been very good. That being said, from what I understand, the Bumblebee movie that I didn't watch was actually pretty good. Maybe they can sort of step up from that and continue a streak of not terrible movies. And if this is a new start of a new trilogy, maybe it could be good. We'll see. But yeah, not too much to say about that. Okay, next up, we finally got a look at the Batsuit in Batgirl. This is the full image here. This is a set photo, of course. I'll be honest, I don't think this looks great. I'm actually one of the few people who really likes the Leslie Grace Batgirl costume, because it, like, to me, that looked like a costume that Barbara Gordon could conceivably make herself. Like, it kind of looks like she just has on like pants, like normal pants, and like a leather jacket. And I'm like, I think that looks cool. I think that looks like something that Barbara Gordon could actually make herself. Like, I loved the season 1 Daredevil costume that, was just like cargo pants and a black sleeved shirt and like a mask. And I'm like, this is awesome. So, but that's just me. I know a lot of people don't like it because, they think it looks cheap, even though I like that it looks cheap. This just kind of looks like plasticky to me. Am I wrong in that? Like the chest just looks like plastic. Like, I don't know. Am I off here? I don't know. And obviously this is just a set photo, so we're going to have to wait and see how it looks in motion and once they actually put out like promotional images, but as of right now, this actually does just not look very good to me. But I don't know, we'll see. Oh, and by the way, I should also mention that this is not Michael Keaton. This is a stunt double. So that should also be noted. Okay. Next up, Peacemaker Season 2 has officially been greenlit. This is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. HBO Max cherishes Peacemaker with all its heart. The streamer has renewed James Gunn's DC Extended Universe action comedy for a second season. Gunn and star John Cena announced the news on social media Wednesday. I think this is awesome news. I love Peacemaker Season 1. We'll get to it later in the What I've Been Watching segment of the show. But I think that's great. I think there's definitely more stories to tell with this crew. And yeah, I think it's a really solid show, and I would love to see it continue. And we'll get to more of James Gunn later in the show. Next story. The Last of Us will not be premiering in 2022. This is coming from Deadline. It's not going to air in 2022. They're still shooting in Canada. I imagine you will see it in 23. HBO and HBO Max Chief Content Officer Casey Bloys told Deadline during an interview tied to TCA. I find this a little bit surprising because I want to say they started shooting last year and they're in well into production now. I feel like they should be able to get this out at least by the end of the year. But I don't know. I'm not on the production staff. I don't know how granted in scope this thing is, because I mean, I know that it is like one of the most expensive HBO shows ever made. So I mean, maybe that could tie into it somehow, that there really is just a ton of work to put into this that is comparable to like a film. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with it, honestly. Like whatever. Like I'm not so excited for this show that like I need it now. I'm curious and kind of optimistic about it, but I'm not like on the edge of my seat waiting for it. You know, like I am the greatest film of all time that is coming out on March 4th, 13 days. Get ready, Matt Reeves on the attack, coming at you with the GOAT movie, The Batman. Next story. Stranger Things season 5 officially going to be the final season. There were two things about Stranger Things that we're going to talk about here. Wow, I did not include the article images. I'm an idiot. I guess let me see if I can just find them here in my folder here, and I'll just read it. You can just listen. All right, you're not getting a visual. You greedy boys. I could have sworn I made these images. Did I not make these images? Oh no. Am I bad at my job? Am I bad at this not even job, but activity this hobby that I do that I would like to be my job? Wow, did I not make these images? Really? All right, well, okay, basically the gist of it is, I'll just summarize it, is that Stranger Things season 4 is going to be split up in 2 parts. Apparently the 4th season is going to be twice as long as any other show, so they might as well just be 2 seasons, right? But it's going to be split up into volume 1 and volume 2, and I think they're going to come out relatively close to each other, but I don't remember the release date, so bite me. And they confirmed that season 5 is going to be the final season, although they also teased like spin-off shows. I don't know if that means like spin-off shows of these characters, these characters that we know and love that kind of make it Stranger Things season 6, or if they're going to be like completely separate characters telling completely separate stories. I'm not sure, but I like Stranger Things. I feel like there's kind of people out there that I feel like are kind of getting sick of it. I'm personally not. Like I actually liked season 3 a lot. I thought it was the best season. So yeah, I'm excited to see this story end and a new one become anew. Next story. Loki season 2 has gotten its directors. This is coming from Deadline. Deadline is hearing that Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead have come on to co-direct a majority of the episodes for the upcoming season. Benson and Moorhead have become go-to directors when it comes to high-priority event series, having previously worked on such tentpole series as The Twilight Zone and Archive 81. So I haven't seen anything that these guys have done, but apparently they also directed a couple episodes of Moon Knight, and apparently Marvel is like very impressed by them, and they're like, hey, you want to do Loki? And they're like, sure, we'll do Loki. So I guess that probably speaks to their talent, and probably, it excites me to see what they do with Moon Knight, and excites me to see what they could potentially do with a Loki season 2, because if I'm being honest, I didn't love Loki season 1. I thought it was just kind of a bit slow and meandering and not very well directed, if I'm being completely honest. I just thought, I thought the episodes were just slow and meandering, and the show just didn't really go anywhere, I felt like, until you kind of got to like the end, where it's like, oh, it was Kang all the time, and Kang is going to spew a bunch of exposition. So I definitely hope for an improvement in a Loki season 2, just kind of to make the show a bit more engaging and make it move and have, a cool, like an interesting plot. But yeah. But these guys are going to be the directors, so get excited. Next story. Life is Strange and Disco Elysium are getting shows on Amazon. This is coming from Collider. According to the new deal, DJ2 Entertainment will offer Amazon Studios the opportunity to pick up any film or TV show they come up with to stream exclusively on the Prime Video service. Since DJ2 is specialized in video game adaptations, players will get a chance to see some of their favorite titles turned into series. What's even greater news is that DJ2 Entertainment is currently working to adapt the Square Enix published franchise Life is Strange and indie developer ZAUM hit Disco Elysium. So, this is interesting. Life is Strange. I liked the first Life is Strange. Now, I never actually played it, but I remember I want to say Jacksepticeye's Let's Play of it, and I actually like the game. It is like it rides a very fine line of being like super cringy in its dialogue of like, you know, kind of like smelling of like old like studio executives that have no idea how like kids actually talk, writing the most cringeworthy dialogue you've ever heard in your entire life. It kind of rides a balance of that being cringy, but also kind of endearing. It's a weird franchise for me, but I never really got into season 2 and 3. But yeah, and then as far as Disco Elysium, I've never played Disco Elysium, but from all I've heard, the story is good, so I'm sure that that's also a good source material to work with. But yeah, and also there's a promise of more video game adaptations coming to Amazon Prime. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what comes from this. Okay, next up, a bit of a weird story. Kevin Feige, he is the president of Marvel Studios, and he said something weird. Let's just get into it. This is coming from CBR. Speaking on the most recent episode of Marvel Studios Assembled. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm just adjusting my chair here. Not that you can see it, but I'm just gonna stop talking about the thing to adjust my chair, because that's what this show is. Okay. Speaking of the most recent episode of Marvel Studios Assembled, centered on Eternals, Feige said, Marvel Studios and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now past their 10th anniversary, and with the release of the final Avengers movie, we've finally completed a 22-movie Infinity Saga. Now, pay attention to what Feige said there. He said, and with the release of the final Avengers movie, we've completed a 22-movie Infinity Saga. A lot of headlines, like a lot of times, somebody will say something and then headlines will be like, they said that there aren't going to be any more Muppet movies. And then you kind of read what they say and it's like, okay, well, they didn't really say that there aren't going to be any more Muppets movies. They might have said something else. He said this. That is what he said. Like, no mincing words. He said that with the release of the final Avengers movie. Now, there's no way this is true. He must have misspoken, or maybe he just meant that with the release of the last Avengers movie, as in just the one that came out most recently, that concluded the Infinity Saga. Like, I think that is what he meant. It's not what he said, but I think that's what he meant. And I think that purely because there's no way we're not getting another Avengers movie. I'm sorry, like, they just make too much money. The Avengers name simply makes too much money. Okay? The next Avengers movie could make half of what the last one made, and it would still make over $1 billion. Okay? They're making another Avengers movie. They just are. So but the one thing that is an interesting thing to think about is that the last Avengers movie did come out in 2019, right? It came out now 3 years ago. Jesus Christ. Wow, 2022. That's the year we're in. Oh my God. So, and we haven't heard anything about the next Avengers movie. I mean, we've heard about all these movies and Disney Plus shows, but admittedly, we haven't heard about the next Avengers movie. But I don't think that that's unusual, nor do I think that supports the idea that we're not going to get another one. the Avengers Endgame, admittedly, it was such a monumental moment that it is nice to kind of like get a break from it. And it should be noted that after the Infinity Saga, Marvel is now in the place where they're developing their new universe. It's not a new universe, but they're developing their new sets of characters that we're going to get in the next Avengers movie. They're developing the storyline that they're kind of all the storylines that they're interweaving and potentially setting up the next Avengers movie. That it makes sense that we're not going to get one for a while, but we're going to get one. It's going to happen. It just is. There just is simply no way. There is no way that they're not going to make another one. Honestly, though, the Avengers as a franchise, as a set of movies, it does worry me, kind of, because I love Infinity War, but honestly, I kind of miss the feeling of the first Avengers movie, where, and this is going to feel insane to say considering what the first Avengers movie is, but I kind of miss the smaller scale. That's such a ridiculous thing to say. Like, I miss the idea of an Avengers movie just being about the Avengers, right? A team of heroes. Like, I don't need the next Avengers movie to be this like insane universal, now multiversal scale thing of, oh my gosh, the multiverse is in danger. We need to save the multiverse. I would like for the next Avengers movie to kind of be like an Earth-based threat where maybe Shang-Chi, Moon Knight, Hawkeye, whether, I don't care, like Haley Steinfeld, where like all our Earth-based heroes have to get together to stop a threat. That's kind of what I want to see from the next Avengers movie. Like I don't need every Avengers movie to literally include every single character in the Marvel universe. Like I don't necessarily need that. It's probably what they're gonna do, and they are gonna do something, whatever they do. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here, but they're gonna make another Avengers movie. It just is gonna happen. But to be fair, that is what Kevin Feige said. The articles were not clickbait. Okay, next story. They're working on a Catwoman spinoff, kind of. They've at least discussed it. It's coming from CBR. At a press conference attended by CBR, Reeves was asked about the further expanding the universe of the Batman and whether a spinoff could be in the works for Zoe Kravitz's Selina Kyle. I've talked to the HBO Max folks, the director and co-writer said. What we're really trying to do is launch this world. If the world embraces this, we have a lot of ideas for things we want to do. And for sure, we want Selina to continue. So, yeah. So, he didn't come out and say that he's working on a Catwoman thing, but when asked directly about a Catwoman thing, he said that he's talked to HBO Max about it. So, this is a potential thing that could happen and that Matt Reeves does want to do. But obviously he's saying like, hey, listen, calm down. Just go watch our movie first, right? Have it make $1 billion, and then we're going to talk about this further Bat universe expanding. I mean, I will say I'm a little worried about them spinning off a separate universe from the DCEU that's just the Matt Reeves Batman universe. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. You know me. Matt Reeves, the Batman, March 4th, 13 days. It is going to be the greatest film in the history of cinema, obviously. But I'm just kind of, maybe, I don't know, maybe slow your roll a little bit. Maybe you don't need to go into a whole cinematic universe thing that's separate from your other cinematic universe. It might get a little bit confusing. It might be, I don't know, maybe you don't need to do that. I don't know. But Zoe Kravitz does look great in the movie, and I'm sure after I come out of it, I'm probably gonna come out of it being like, I want to see more of Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. So am I gonna like get mad or complain if they, if after the Batman they greenlight an HBO Max Catwoman show? No, I'm not. But just the insistence on creating a completely separate spin, like the Matt Reeves the Batman universe with all of these shows, because remember, there's the Gotham, like the GCPD show, and there's a Penguin spinoff show. Like, those are all in the works. This and those are in the works, and potentially more. It might just be a lot of content, and it's also worth noting that Matt Reeves he can't write and direct all of this probably, because he's probably going to be working on his next Batman movie. So I don't know. I whatever. It could happen. Okay, next up. So Francis Ford Coppola, he said some more dumb things about Marvel movies. It's coming from the Hollywood Reporter. There used to be studio films, now there are Marvel pictures. And what is a Marvel picture? If you can't see me, but I'm like angrily waving my fist at the clouds that are past my ceiling. I can't actually see the clouds. But I'm angrily wagging my fist at them. And I'm trying to do an old man voice. So that's the image that you should have in your head, okay? A Marvel picture is one prototype movie that is made over and over and over and over and over again to look different, he told the publication. Coppola continued to explain his point by referencing Denis Villeneuve's Dune and Cary Fukunaga's No Time to Die, films he considered to be good films with talented filmmakers, but ones that still felt similar, he explained. Even the talented people, you could take Dune, made by Denis Villeneuve, an extreme. What is this? This is like an old timey like radio host accent. I'm bad with accents. I'm sorry. An extremely talented, gifted artist, and you could take No Time to Die, directed by Cary Fukunaga. Extremely gifted, talented, beautiful artist, and you could take both those movies, and you and I could go and pull the same sequence out of both of them and put them together. The same sequence where the cars all crash into each. What is this quote? What is he talking about? So I mean, okay, it's not like it's not an uncommon thing to say that all Marvel movies are the same. Now, I disagree. Like, I don't know who could look at Spider-Man Homecoming, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and be like, yeah, those are the same movie. It's like, no. It's like, I guess they all have humor in them. I guess they all have action in them. I guess all of those movies have an antagonist. I guess. But they're not the same movie. It's like honestly, I feel like when you get to the point where you're saying that all Marvel movies are the same, it's kind of like okay, well, at that point you might as well just like say that all movies are the same because they all have a 3-act structure and they all have a, you know, it gets so weird and convoluted, right? Now listen, it's totally fair to be like, I don't like Marvel movies. I think they're bad films. That's totally fair and a reasonable thing to say. But it just, you broach the realm of just being objectively incorrect when you try to say that they are the same movie over and over again when they're just not, especially like aesthetically and, you know, in terms of, you know, what each director brings to them. Like, they're just not. They're not. It's just like, they're not. And then obviously he made that bizarre comment about No Time to Die and Dune being the same movie where they both have scenes of cars crashing into each other. Now, I don't know. He clearly did not see Dune. Now, I could be wrong. I have only seen Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Maybe the other ones maybe like the older Dune movies and maybe in the Dune books, there are scenes of cars crashing into each other. But I feel like, I don't think that's the case. I don't know. I don't think that Francis Ford Coppola has ever consumed any Dune content. I don't think he has. But yeah, okay. This is obviously an assumption that I'm making, but it really does feel like whenever like these, admittedly great directors, right? Like guys like Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese. Like, this is none of me making fun of them is to take away from their brilliance, because of course they're brilliant filmmakers. But it really just does reek of, like, these criticisms reek of being big mad over them not being able to fund their projects and getting them like released theatrically. When you look back at when Martin Scorsese went on his tirade, like initially it was like somebody asked about Marvel movies and he kind of gave his opinion and it was like, okay, whatever. But later on, during the press tour of The Irishman, he came out and attacked Marvel movies, saying that it's Marvel movies' fault that The Irishman wasn't being played in theaters, when it's like, no, Martin Scorsese, it's not Spider-Man's fault that your movie didn't get funded by a major studio. It's just because a $150 million mobster movie is never going to make its money back. That's just the reality of the world. Maybe instead of having to deep fake actors, forcing crusty old what's his face? The taxi driver guy. Oh my gosh. Oh no, I'm ruining my rant. What's his name? Jesus. Oh my gosh. Robert De Niro. Instead of getting crusty old Robert De Niro to pathetically beat up a guy, maybe just cast a younger actor and then using makeup or whatever to eventually get him to the point where he looks like Robert De Niro. You could do that. You could have done that. It would have been cheaper, and I guarantee you a major studio would have funded that movie. And honestly, it probably would have been better because it wouldn't have just looked awful, right? So, but yeah, and so back then, that is like the main reason why he went on his tirade against Marvel. Because initially his comments weren't that bad, but then he started going out saying that Marvel movies are ruining cinema. Like, he did say those things, right? And then now we're here with Francis Ford Coppola. He's like funding his like dream project movie of like, I think it's called like Megalopolis or something, where it's like, oh, imagine a future where people aren't texting on their phones anymore, something like that. I don't even know. But it's like he's funding his dream movie that no studio is going to fund because it's too expensive. And it's like, dude, yeah, your movie's it would probably bomb. I'm sorry. But nobody, $100 million, like, $400 million worth of people are not going to go watch a Francis Ford Coppola movie on the basis of it being a Francis Ford Coppola movie, especially if that movie looks like artsy-fartsy nonsense. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality of the world. And Marvel movies are not the reason for that being the reality of the world. I'm sorry. If Marvel movies just stopped existing, that doesn't mean that everybody that went to go see Marvel movies are going to now suddenly go and watch Francis Ford Coppola's stupid artsy-fartsy nonsense. Like, I'm sorry. It's just the reality of the world. So, I don't know. It is what it is. If every couple months there's gonna be another, this conversation is gonna get brought up again, right? This conversation is never gonna end, and I don't know, but it is what it is. Okay, next story, and our final story of the day, we're going back to James Gunn. We of course talked about Peacemaker season 2 being greenlit, but we also have James Gunn saying that he's going to be doing exclusively TV for at least a year. This is coming from the CBR. Yeah, I think I pretty much have decided that after I'm done with Guardians, I'm going to be doing television for at least a year. Gunn told Variety after he was asked if working in television appealed more to him than movies. My mind's made up on that. Not all the shows that we're dealing with are things that I'm going to be writing and directing, so some of them may take different amounts of my time. Peacemaker is going to be me writing, me directing, and me spending all my time on set. But other shows that may not be writing and directing, or not directing all, but other shows that may not be writing and directing or not directing all the episodes. I messed up the reading on that. My apologies. Gosh, sue me. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. I know like a lot of people have been hoping that like James Gunn would be able to like keep bouncing back and forth between Marvel and DC, but I've been of the opinion that there's simply no way that he can keep up that work ethic. I mean, this dude has been on the grind recently. He's been on the Sigma grind recently, right? Like he did the Suicide Squad. He went right into like Peacemaker. Then I think he went right into like I Am Groot. Or I don't know exactly how involved he is in I Am Groot, but he went right into that and Guardians 3. In the middle of shooting Guardians 3, he's also going to shoot the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. So the guy has just been on a grind, on a nonstop grind for like the past 2 years. And I just don't think he's going to be able to keep all that up, right? Like, I don't think there was ever going to be a reality where he was going to be doing TV shows, movies for DC, and movies for Marvel. And apparently, he's not even going to be doing movies and TV shows for DC. It looks like at least for a year, he's just going to be doing TV. And I think that's honestly kind of exciting. Like, I like the Suicide Squad, but I didn't love the Suicide Squad. I love Peacemaker. Peacemaker has been really great. And so yeah, I'm just down for whatever James Gunn wants to do, right? Honestly, like whatever he is in his whatever he desires, just let him do it, right? And so yeah, I think this is exciting. I think we're obviously going to get a second season of Peacemaker. We're going to get other shows. I'm trying to think of like what show he would do, because I'm like, do you make like a Bloodsport and Ratcatcher movie? Do you make a King Shark / whatever movie? Do you go back and make a Polka Dot Man prequel? It'll be very interesting to see. And or maybe he just steps away from the sort of Suicide Squad stuff that he set up in his movie and he goes and does something new. That would also be super interesting. I want a Kite Man / Maneater Lad duo show. I want them to team up and fight crime. That's what I want to see. But yeah, we'll see what he does from now on. But either way, I'm just excited for whatever James Gunn does next. Okay, now let's get into the final segment of the show where I talk about what I have been playing / watching. I'll be honest, have not had a ton of time this week, so I've only played / watched 3 things. But yeah, we'll talk about them. I've been playing Sifu. This game is a game that has made me want to in Minecraft jump off of a ravine. So yeah, basically this game is The Raid, the game. It like I do love this game. It is great, but it is also very difficult. And I mentioned The Raid just because this game feels as good to play as The Raid feels to watch. Basically, you play as a guy who's getting revenge on people, so it's got that kind of like John Wick-esque feeling to it as well. And basically in each level, you just make your way through a bunch of bad guys, and really the difficulty comes just in the combat and how intricate it is, and how like the game, like in order to play the game, you gotta get good at the combat. There's no way to cheese it. There's no way to like button mash your way through it. You gotta get good at blocking, at parrying, at dodging. And yeah, but it is really fun. The thing that makes it really frustrating though is that basically the way it works is that every time you die, you age. And once you get past the age of 70, after you die at that point, whether it be like 70, 71, 72, whatever you get to, once you die at that point, you're done with the level and you have to start over. But every time you beat a level, you start the next level at whatever age you ended on in the last level. So, like, say you beat level 1 at age 60, then you start level 2 at age 60. And so then you're only going to have like maybe 2 or 5 tries going through that level in order to beat it. And the only way to start level 2 at a younger age is to go back and beat level 1 again and beat it better so that you get to level 2 at a younger age. And so that is what's ultimately incredibly difficult about this game. And And yeah, and it's also just one of those things where it's just really hard. It is really hard, but I think I want to beat it. Like, I think I want to get good at it, and I think I want to beat it. I know they're coming out with like an easy mode. I might get tempted to just play it on easy mode just because it's so hard, but it's also really fun, and it also looks amazing. Like, I love the way it's the art style. I love the direction of the way certain cinematics are presented. It's really cool. It is a really cool game. So yeah, if you're not much of a gamer, if you're not very good at video games, maybe stay away. Maybe wait for them to drop that easy mode. But I mean, if you love like kung fu movies, or if you love like stuff like The Raid, then yeah, I mean, this is definitely a cool thing to check out. At least like watch YouTube videos of it to maybe see if it's something that you even want to tackle first. But it is a lot of fun. Okay. Next up, I watched Peacemaker episode 6, the season finale. I love the show. It is a really great show. Obviously, we were talking about James Gunn earlier, and it's just a really good character study of a man that, it's a man that through his interactions with other people, like, really, like, genuinely and naturally just kind of became a better person and dealt with his own demons. And that's really what I like about this show. In my review, I kind of went through this whole spiel about how, James Gunn obviously went through his cancellation, and it obviously worked out in his favor because it led to him being able to work with both Marvel and DC. Dang, I need to leave. Oh shoot. I totally forgot that I have something to do. Okay. Real quick, I apologize for cutting this short, but either way, I did make a review for both Peacemaker and Uncharted. So if you really want to hear my thoughts on these,